Jai Ma Kamakhya, Jai Bhairava, Jai Matara. Today, on the occasion of Guru Purnima, I come before you with this video. I've been quite some time to speak a little bit on the Guru Tattva because there have been quite some mails from people asking to explain certain aspects of the Guru Tattva. So, as we are well aware that for any kind of spiritual practice, there is always, as the traditions mention, that for all spiritual practices, there is the necessity of a guru. There is no doubt about it because the guru is like the mentor and the guide. Broadly speaking, uh, for many of the practices that we do, especially those related to Tantra Sadhana, two types of gurus are very important. One is the Diksha Guru, the one who gives you the Tantra Diksa, and the Shiksha Guru, one who teaches you what needs to be done. These two are equally important. Diksha Guru is important not just because, especially for the Kola Marga of Tantra, as well as whether it's in the other paths of Tantra. Diksha Guru has the power to transmit an energy through a specific ritual. This ritual is basically a kind of a prayer to the deities, a specific puja where it's taken as a permission from the deities, and the deities of the Kula whole, not just the specific individual of that sampradaya, the deities of the sampradaya connected to that Kula to bless so and so individual so that he or she may start doing sadhana of a form of the Mahavidya that his or her guru decides or has come to an agreement that this is the right Mahavidya for the individual. And therefore, from that point, he or she has the adhikara to do various kinds of puja and karma kanda related to the Mahavidya. So, what happens without this Tantra Diksha is that there is a possibility that eventually there may be, at least at the initial phases, for some individuals, if not all, there could be a counter reaction because of the energy of the Mahavidya. And it's not, again, not for everybody, but it may happen in one or two cases. There's a counter reaction. In order that the reaction is curtailed, contained, and turned positive towards the individual. Therefore, the importance of Diksha, specifically Shaktaabhishek Diksha in Tantra, is very important. It is the one Diksha that is given extreme prominence in the texts mentioned in details. Different types of Dikshas are mentioned, but this is given great prominence because it removes various doshas in the individual and allows them to practice Mahavidya Upasana. That said, it is important that the texts, when they mention Diksha, when they mention certain practices, it is aimed, the original texts are aimed not just for the average individual, it is aimed for those who are aiming at absolute mastery of the path, which is the siddhi of the process. So their texts are not, do not mention only, the casual practitioner or somebody who's just engaging for simple a kind of bhakti mode of sadhana. No, it mentions those requirements and the path for somebody who is going to reach, at least in theory, who has the aim of reaching the highest practice, highest condition of existence. So, therefore, there are many other restrictions also mentioned. That said, it is important to understand that just having a Diksha by itself is not a guarantee of progress. There are thousands of people, especially in Eastern India, those interested in Tantra. If you just randomly throw a stone, it's likely to fall on somebody who has a Diksha on some of the other sampradaya. But that does not necessarily translate into the fact that they have made an actual spiritual progress, because progress comes through a lot of hard work. There is, apart from Diksha, one has to do a lot of own personal sadhana, mantra puruscarna after puruscarna, and then beyond that, there is something known as the anugraha of the deity. Until the deity blesses you, there is no full, there's no complete method by which you can actually ensure that definitely you will progress, because the blessings, the anugraha is a X factor which is not in your hands. It is when the deity chooses and he or she decides based on your purva samskara, on your tendencies, or the purity of the upasaka, and various other factors, that who is it that will get the blessing and who will get it perhaps at a later time. So it's very crucial to understand that it's good to have a Tantra Diksha, but it does not guarantee progress by itself. Because I have seen innumerable people having Diksha but making no progress at all. My own Diksha Guru, my own Tantra Diksha Guru is from Kamakhya, one of the oldest families of the Parvatiya Goshais, who were people who were the people who had initially, many centuries ago, had settled in Kamakhya and kind of established the Tantra Sadhana Paddhati there, and they were the original gurus of the Pitha. When the kings had brought a family from the district of Nodia in Bengal and settled them in Kamakhya, so they were the original gurus of that of the Kamakhya Pitha. So it is important, if you are choosing a Tantra Diksha, that the Kula of the Guru is important, because that means that there is a long undisturbed lineage of Gurus that have passed in the family who have been doing the process of Diksha. Therefore, it brings a certain blessings of that deity. In this case, for example, the blessings of Ma Kamakhya onto the individual. And when the Diksha process happens, that blessing can flow into the Upasaka. In fact, the Tantras mention that when Shaktaabhishek, actually literal proper Shaktaabhishek Diksha happens, then it is assumed as if Shiva himself enters into the body of the Guru and transmits the power. But that said, it's still important to understand that just a Diksha means nothing. I have seen enough individuals, even in the Sampradaya in Kamakhya, having Tantra Diksha, and then within a year or two, the whole thing fizzing out and not making any visible progress. Because progress is a thing in sadhana. When you make a progress, you will see that it is not just something that you have to claim that I have made a progress. It is something that the whole world will get to know. It is something that the deity ensures that there is no doubt about it. It changes the individual's aura. It changes the individual's personality. It changes the individual's reactions to things. That is a key indicator, marker of whether actually some progress has happened, or it's just all, a kind of verbal thing that I'm doing some sadhana and I'm making progress. No, there's a huge difference between actual progress. Somebody who's speaking from a position of a changed consciousness, whereas somebody who's just, parroting some few lines here, she might have read somewhere. There's a huge ocean of difference. And this difference rings as a certain sense of authenticity. And very humanly, it is easily able to, it's easy for somebody to decipher that who has experienced and who is perhaps read two books here and one line here, another line here, and pretends to be a Gyani. In fact, I have met enough individuals, and I've seen one very peculiar phenomenon in this age, that the less amount of actual sadhana and actual progress that a person has is covered up by a tremendous show of being some great scholar. So it's like a lacuna within. The spiritual lacuna within is perhaps compensated by pretending to be something that one is not. So anyway, whatever is for the universe to decide, but we focus on our path of sadhana, our practice, and our own progress. Not just for Tantra Sadhana, there is another, for any path for that matter, after the Diksha Guru comes what is known as somebody who can teach you the methods of the sadhana. Somebody who can give you an example of why this particular mantra is to be done, what happens when you do this, what should be the complementary practice with that. So these things become extremely potent and important as one goes further in the sadhana, because they help to harmonize the practice that you are doing. So this is where the element of shiksha, or education in the path, becomes important. Here too, a guru must be somebody, a teacher, a mentor, whatever you want to call it, must be somebody who has both the experience of the thing himself or herself. Additional to that, must also have the blessings of the deity, an experience, a blessing of the deity, and the ability to teach you. These three things are very important. just because somebody has a lot of knowledge of a particular topic, say might have read a book or 5 blogs here and there, it does not give them the guarantee that their teaching will be useful, because the teaching is never useful until, most important, and this is a very, very crucial factor, there's a blessings of the deity on that individual. In fact, in the Kathamrita, Sri Ramakrishna mentions in one place that until the Devata actually blesses an individual, one does not have the sanction to teach. Any teaching such an individual gives who does not yet have a blessings of a deity is as good as something very superficial and will cause no impact on the others or the students or anybody who comes to such an individual for guidance, because the core Shakti has not yet developed. And the development of Shakti, the internalization of Shakti, the transformation in the individual is something that is guided by the deity. So, therefore, in the path of the Shakta Upasana, we always greet each other with the saying of Joy Ma, because the mother, the divine mother, is at the top of everything. She is like the one who finally decides who is capable of uh, guiding, who is not capable of guiding, who has actually attained something, who has not attained something, without her explicit blessings. Apart from the other processes, Diksha, your self effort, your contemplation, everything, plus the anugraha, that is very key. That cannot be controlled by anybody. If it comes to somebody, it's fine. If it doesn't, you have to keep trying until it does. And there's no time frame by which you can decide when or how it is going to come. So that becomes very crucial. In this, uh, when we use that famous shloka, Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Deva Maheshwara, there is another way of interpreting this, and it was told to me by through a siddha that came to me this information, and I found it very useful in my own practice. That when we say Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Deva Maheshwara, there are two ways of seeing this. One is that you believe that the physical manifestation of the Guru is Brahma, Vishnu, Maheshwara, or Brahma, Vishnu, Maheshwara are the original gurus. They are the guru of the universe. The Brahman is the guru of the universe. And every other being, entity, every other human being who takes on the position of the guru is but a small representative of this great, vast, infinite gods and powers. Okay. When we look at it that way, then it is important that the human mind has a right rational understanding of these things, because along with whenever you're dealing with a human being, there will be certain, you may find certain flaws, you may find certain things that you like or you do not like. So mind has to process that. It's one thing to say that I have blind bhakti on the guru. It's another thing to have that kind of a mindset, and it's not that easy, because suppose you interact with somebody and you see a certain kind of flaw, the mind will not be able to adjust and take a position where you have an absolute and unconditional faith on that being. uh, Maybe it's possible if you have that kind of a karmic connection to an individual, but in a more rational manifestation of this, it's not going to work. In that case, you have to start in believing in the Guru Tattva, which is it's like the original date is the Brahman, who is the final Guru, who is the actual Guru, who is the guide, who manifests through various individuals. And in that process, it guides people according to their capacity. So your job is not to be in judgment of the various things that are being done, but only to the extent that is the association beneficial to you. Therefore, it is important that when you associate with a guru, you do a self introspection after 6 months to see that actually is it benefiting, actually are you able to has it caused a change in your consciousness. And that is the most crucial aspect of any kind of spiritual practice, any deity that you are worshipping. Is there a change in the consciousness? In this regards, we know the story of Bhagvaan Dattatreya, which is very famous in our scriptures. So Bhagvaan Dattatreya has so many gurus, and all of these gurus are either different kinds of animals or natural phenomena or things, until he finally has reaches a stage where he is today he's not just an ordinary being, he's the immortal God himself, this beginning and the end of various sampradayas. This story has a very deep and very simple meaning. The way I look at it, once you become capable of receiving, your receptivity in the heart increases, receptivity in the mind increases, you will see that everything around you can become a guru. So the original guru is the Brahman. The Guru Tattva can come to you and guide you from anything around you. It need not be a physical human guru. It can also be a non-physical entity also. It can be a plant, or it can be an animal. It can be anything. You just need the degree of receptivity inside to be able to judge and understand what is being told to you. This is also a form of learning, a form of change that can come in, because at the end of the day, the whole process is aimed so that there is some internal change that happens in the upasaka. Without the change, there is no progress. Another concept, and this is much less discussed, is that the Devata himself can also turn into the Guru, because the Devata is vast, universal, cosmic. So he can become everything. In this case, more specifically, Bhairava himself can turn into a Guru to a lot of people. How is this possible? It's as you keep doing the simple Naama mantra of Bhairava, and as it's evident in the case of thousands of people over the last 2 years, I'm looking at the kind of responses, the emails that I get, and when I go to the Kalbhairav temple or the other places, the number of people who come to meet me and share their experiences, it's evident that this kind of a huge upsurge of Bhairava Nama is impossible without the explicit will of the Bhairava. In fact, I remember while traveling to South, I met a Swami sannyasi who was very kind enough and shared some of his insights. And he made a very pertinent observation. He says that it is Bhairava himself who is governing this. And he has many people to ensure that his Nama is going to be spread, and there is nobody, no power on earth, heaven and earth, and anywhere in any of the planes who can stop this, because it's an idea whose time has come. So it is, when we do the japa, we are also doing a karma that is related to Priti of Bhairava. He becomes happy. So you have to understand that as the japa progresses, Om Bhairavaya Namah, there's a very simple japa. No need to complicate it with various kinds of theories. All that you can, those who want to, have too much of discussions, they can keep it aside. But the simple thing, if you go to the Kal Bhairav temple in Kashi, which is the primary Bhairava shrine of India, you will see that in the where the Vigraha of Baba is kept right on top, on silver, it's written Om Kal Bhairavaya Namah. And this is a similar type of mantra, Om Bhairavaya Namah. So, as one does sadhana of this mantra, as you internalize inside and go more into a meditative state, it is going to cause a change inside in your consciousness. It is going to open up the Vishnu Granthi in the heart. It is very important that there is a change inside the heart of the human being. Heart means, I don't mean the physical heart, it's the center of, the core center of our existence, the Anahata Chakra. And there is a granthi, or a knot. And again, it's not a physical knot, but it's like a psychic knot. As one keeps doing the sadhana, this knot loosens. As this knot loosens, one experiences a divine presence. And this divine presence, this is the actual seat of the deity. This is the seat of the Devata. Once Bhairava Tattva is installed there in an upasaka, and by doing japa, by meditating, by imagining that he is deep inside, and he is the one thing that pervades the whole of the universe, automatically this mantra brings a guidance to the sadhaka on what needs to be done, what is the next steps. Of course, it's not a immediate process. It's a thing that takes time, naturally, because spiritual progress is not something so easy, but it works unfailingly. If you have faith on this mantra, and if you keep chanting it with reverence to Bhairava, because Bhairava is nothing but Shiva who has come down to this plane, and because he has come down in this plane of ignorance, we say that Bhairava is a deity of change, of smashan. But if you think about it, every place on earth is a cremation ground. Wherever death happens, that is a smashan. So the moment you are born, from that very moment, the act of death is absolutely certain. Baki or kuch bhi cheez, anything else in your life may or may not be certain, but death is the one reality that is 100% certain. And in fact, we see in Jyotisha that the first house and the eighth house, which is the house of death, have the same Lord. So because of these two connections, it's evident that the moment you're born, nature has made it that way. And it is Bhairava who governs change, death, or giving up things that are old so that you can start something that is new. This transition is absolutely guarded by the deity whom we so keenly regard and respect as Bhagvaan Bhairava. Is none other than Shiva. He is the one who creates, sustains, and transforms the universe, both at an individual level and at a cosmic level. The beauty of Bhairava Japa, something I've already mentioned before, is that once you start doing it with devotion, Shraddha, faith, you will see that you take one step towards him, he takes two steps towards you. There are going to be Nimittas, signs, etc. that are there. Of course, there is a certain possibility that there are some individuals may have certain kinds of doshas like Pitru or Sarpa dosha, etc. Those things never go out by the worship of only deities. You have to ensure that those are cured through the right kind of pariharams at the right places. No Devata upasana is sufficient to completely remove these two doshas if it's there. However, for other things, everything else being constant, the Naama of Bhairava is one of the greatest contacts one may have with the Guru Tattva. It changes you, it guides you forward, it gives you the strength that is necessary, and most importantly, it takes you outside of fear. Bhairava's biggest blessing to an individual is not to be scared of change, not to be scared of change, because whole spiritual process is nothing but change. The moment you start your journey, if you have the idea that even after 5-10 years you will remain the same, and by change, by remaining the same, I mean that the same environment, the same friends, the same circles, the same kind of repeated thinking patterns, if nothing has changed, then you have made no progress. Change requires a certain degree of letting go, or certain degree of sacrifice. The 8th house in the horoscope of an individual is the house of death, among many things, is the house of Kundalini Shakti, and also the house of sacrifice. And all sacrifice is actually a sacrifice of the self, something from within, that which you might have been carrying till now, but that is not necessary, something that you hold on to, old emotions, maybe old thought patterns, behaviors, etc. In fact, it's interesting that in the 8th, those who know Jyotisha will be aware that the 8th house is also the house where moon, Chandrama, actually is the Marankarak Sthan, which is, it has the death-like experience of the moon, which means the mind or the emotions come to die on the 8th house. So 8th is a place where there is a demand for a sacrifice from the individual, and sacrifice means the best of sacrifice is when one sacrifices from within oneself, that which you are attached to. Maybe it could be a thought pattern. I'm not saying the ripus, it's something even more organic, something you could experience yourself. Maybe there's something, a kind of emotion, something you have given up, an attachment to the self, a maya of the self. Maya is basically nothing but attachment of the self. So some attachments have to be given off. Either you give it off yourself, or nature will extract it out of you painfully. So this is where the idea of sacrifice comes in. And this whole process of sacrifice allows you, it frees you to move forward. After the sacrifice, either a person can languish in the effects of the sacrifice and fall down, or accept it in humble surrenderance to nature that this is what is necessary, and move forward. As one accepts sacrifice, as one understands the necessity of sacrifice, as one understands that sacrifice is a part of growth, without sacrifice you cannot grow, eventually it is possible to create something that also comes from the 8th house, which is called legacy, something that makes you immortal, something that will make your work sustain way beyond your material existence on earth. And this is how we have men, women who have, whoever has ever done any activity by which even centuries later people remembered them, that is only by the blessings of the 8th house in a horoscope. So this is the house. The 8th is the number which connects to Bhairava. He controls, he's the one who governs time. He can ensure that you have a certain degree of immortality. Anybody can have a certain degree of immortality, because your true immortality is not your physical immortality, but how long does one remember your name after you're gone? That is the true test of the Shakti that is associated with your name. Today, 100 years, 150 years later, we still revere Swami Vivekananda. Whether when he lived, whether there were people, detractors and others is irrelevant. Nobody remembers them. We remember Vivekananda in a very positive framework, so much that everybody wants to make him a part of his camp. Whether one ideology versus this and that, etc. That is a test of Shakti. Today, Ramakrishna Paramahamsa is a saint in almost all houses, almost every second house in Bengal. That is a test of Shakti. When we think of Rama, Lord Rama, Avatar Rama, Krishna, who might have lived 5,000 years ago, or God knows how long back, not going into that issue of dating, and till today they are worshipped across the land as gods. That is Shakti. That is the test of Shakti. They may not be physically present, but the power of the name, the power of the activity has created an energy and aura so profound that even 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 years later, people bow down to them with the greatest reverence as if there is a living God. They were as if they were living gods. This blessing is the true test of Shakti and the true test of immortality. And only Bhairava can grant you that, because he governs the 8th house. And he demands, whom does he give it to? Somebody who's ready to sacrifice from his own self. Sacrifice things that you are attached to. Sacrifice things which block your progress. Sacrifice things by which you repeatedly in patterns go on thinking in a certain fashion. It could be anything. It's for the individual to judge. And this judgment, this whole process, in today's time, most of the physical gurus, 99.99% of them cannot do this for you, because that type of Siddha gurus are almost not there. If it is there, then it will change that disciple into a powerhouse. I mean, as they say, by looking at the fruit, you can find the tree. By looking at the disciple, you can understand what is the strength of the guru, actually. So that type of change is very difficult to effect. Only a deity can do that. Only a deity. So as one does more of Bhairava Japa, one surrenders to him, Bhairava guides you and he teaches you how to go beyond, at the highest stages, how he teaches you to go beyond the ego. The human ego means not pride, but attachment to things. So when you are going on the road, somebody calls your name, you look back, because your sense of self is attached to the name. Your sense of self is attached to, I am so and so, I have done so and so activities, this is my father, this is my sampradaya, this is my friends, this is my prestige, things like that. Those are the only things that will stop you from going higher after a point. Ego is very important so long as the material life remains functional. Nature creates this ego. But after a point, when you have to go beyond that, then you have to transcend the ego. And it's never easy to give up the self. The ego and the self has numerous ways of fooling yourself into believing that these are very important. They may be at the lower stages, but the higher stages, you are not allowed to access the higher stages so long as the mind or the sense of self is attached to these things. To break this down, the force of nature that breaks this down, the manifestation of the ultimate Brahman that breaks this down, is our dear Bhagvaan Bhairava. He governs how to break and transcend the ego. Before that, it gives you the strength, because the ego, the transcendence of the ego is something that will happen even at the physical plane during the moment of death, because your sense of self is also attached strongly to the body. What is death but a kind of a process by which you are cut off from the physical? Your ego is torn out of the physical body, so that then it can go to whatever plane it has to go, etc. This process is therefore always slightly painful, the moment of death. And this too is governed by Bhairava. He is the one who causes you, who governs the process by which you have to give up that which needs to be given up. The moment you start doing it consciously, you are able to do this consciously, you will see a lot of change within you. You will see that you are able to move forward, you are able to grow, you are able to expand in your consciousness, both in terms of the the depth of the consciousness, the quality of your sadhana, the quality of your inner experiences that come, etc. These things become very, very crucial as one goes higher, and this is precisely why Bhairava becomes one of the greatest Guru Tattvas. When he blesses an individual, and there are cases, it is not so difficult, it is not so easy also, because when a deity blesses you, he or she only blesses you if you are that authentic and sincere. There is no way you can fool a deity. You might be able to fool a human guru. It's very much possible. If you do a lot of guru bhakti, guru will get pleased and can help you. But a deity is not so easily pleased. He or she will test you to the core. How strong is your attachment? How strong, how deep is your contact with him? How powerfully do you like him? What is it that you are ready to sacrifice? And only when he or she is satisfied, then comes the blessing. And when a deity blesses somebody through the Guru Tattva, and mark my words, he or she will become renowned for something, and nobody, it will be always one or two notches above everybody else. Because when a deity blesses, they ensure that the name, the immortality, the Shakti of the individual rises to a stature where he or she is granted a certain degree of immortality in times to come. Take, for example, Kalidasa. Uh, he gets the blessing of Ma Kali. He changes overnight into a poet, as we know the story. So, who was his physical guru? Who was his human guru? I don't know. I have not read much about it. But we know today that there's a man who wasn't, uh, that learned, and then in the context of a deity, his whole consciousness changes and he becomes a poet so terrific that even today we say that almost like there's nobody of the caliber of Kalidasa. This is precisely what the blessings of a deity can do. When they come, their teaching methods are very, very, very different. In 1 second, they can teach you things, plant inside your consciousness, change your consciousness, change your Shakti completely. And then you start processing that change over time. And as honestly and authentically you can reflect that change, it is organically going to ensure that that specific Upasaka is known for that, something, some kind of a blessing by which they are a notch above the others. And this name will carry on because it is the deity who gives the blessing. Its name, this work, this activity, whatever they perform, this aura will carry on for a very long time. And that is why we have that's precisely why the great siddhas and the powerful masters who actually attained contact with the deity and blessings of the deity. Because the deity, when they come to you, they're not at the final communion of the deity, final time when the deity actually, the great larger space through which the deity appears to the individual, it is always to bless the individual. It is never to have a normal conversation and chit chat. And they don't need human language to speak. They can cause a transformation inside. They plant the seed of a Shakti inside your consciousness that grows into a tree, and as it grows, it changes the individual, it transforms the individual, it makes into a completely new spiritual being. This, therefore, indeed is the process of sadhana. And in this, therefore, is how the Guru Tattva can manifest to anything, whether it's a human being, whether it's a plant, whether it's an animal, or in the extreme cases, when the Guru Tattva actually comes to us through the power of a Devata. And that is perhaps the greatest of all things, if at all it happens to an individual. It's not so easy, but it's possible. With that, I'll conclude my session today. Jai Ma Kamakhya, Jai Bhairava, Jai Matara.